Everybody to regional council. Say that 10 times. Welcome everybody to the regional council meeting of July the 14th. I'd like to acknowledge the traditional territory of the Dene Cree and Dunnezah people of Fort Nelson, as well as the Prophet River First Nations. We further recognize the rights provided by the treaty. Finally, we celebrate the contributions and the enduring presence of the Métis people in our region. Please be advised that tonight's meeting is available to the public to attend virtually and is being streamed and recorded. Are there any council additions to tonight's agenda? Staff? Thank you. This is an opportunity for the public to comment, short period at the start of the meeting on anything that is on our agenda tonight. Is there anybody online who wishes to comment on tonight's meeting? No? Anybody in the gallery? No? Okay. Adoption of the agenda is in order. Please move. Sorry? Oh, there's somebody. Okay, Christine Taylor.
Hi, sorry. Can we just add Robert Warner as a panelist into the meeting too, so that he's able to comment if needed during my presentation?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
So Bob is with the Fort Ministry of Force. Yeah. Okay. You're in now? Okay, perfect.
I'm in now. Thank you.
You're welcome. Adoption of the agenda is in order, please.
So moved.
Moved by Councillor Roper, second by Councillor Enex. All in favor? Are there any opposed? Seeing none, that's adopted. We have 5 sets of minutes. We have the Committee of the Whole meeting of June the 19th, the Special Regional Council meeting of June the 21st, the Committee of the Whole meeting of June the 23rd, the Regional Council meeting of June the 23rd, and the Committee of the Whole meeting of June the 25th for adoption. Can I have somebody move those, please? Moved by Councillor Enex. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Roper. Are there any errors or omissions in any of those? Seeing none, all in favor of adoption? Are there any opposed? Passes. Thank you very much. Business arising from the minutes. Is there any business arising or questions that council has for staff? Seeing none, staff, is there any business arising that you have? No? Thank you. Okay, that brings us to proclamations. 7.1 National Drowning Prevention Week. So I'm a little bit tongue-tied, but I will read this for some reason tonight. National Drowning Prevention Week, July 20th to 26th, 2025. Whereas the mission of Life Saving Society Canada is to prevent drowning throughout this great country, and even one drowning in BC is one too many. And whereas most drownings are preventable in a water-smart community, and only through water-smart education and a healthy respect for the potential danger that any body of water may present, can we genuinely enjoy the beauty and recreational opportunities offered by these bodies of water. And whereas the Life Saving Society urges Canadians and residents of the Northern Rockies Regional Municipality to supervise children who are in and around water, to refrain from drinking alcoholic beverages while participating in aquatic activities, and to always wear a life jacket when boating. And whereas the United Nations General Assembly passed the UN Resolution on Drowning Prevention A75L76 and named July 25th of each year as World Drowning Prevention Day, and whereas Life Saving Society has declared July 20th to 26th, 2025 National Drowning Prevention Week to focus on drowning problem and the hundreds of lives that could be saved this year. Now, therefore, I, Rob Fraser, do hereby proclaim July 20th to 26th, 2025 National Drowning Prevention Week in the Northern Rockies Regional Municipality. So proclaimed. Who would like to receive this?
Do this?
Sure, like this.
Thank you.
Welcome. Okay, that brings us to item 8 on the agenda, 8.1, which is a delegation from the Ministry of Forests. Today we have Christina Taylor, Melanie Webster, and Bob Warner to present a short presentation on the WUI plan, I believe. Welcome, all three. We don't see you for years, and then here you are in our community 3 times in the last month. So welcome welcome, and the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you. I don't think Melanie's joining us this evening.
Oh, okay.
But we have a presentation to do, and happy to be here. Thank you for having us. I'm going to try to share here. Give me 1 minute. Sorry, of course, there's technical difficulties the first time. Okay.
Do you want us to pull it up, Christine, or are you okay there?
Did it come up now? I think I've got it here.
We're not seeing it.
Oh, okay. Let's try that one again.
There it is.
There we
Oh.
go.
Perfect. Okay. Thank you. Yeah, so thank you for having us today. We wanted to just present our wildfire risk reduction plan for the Fort Nelson area. Some of you have already chatted with me a little bit, and with Bob as well. And so I'm the land and resource specialist. And maybe I'll just let Bob introduce himself here.
Hi, everybody. Bob Warner. My title is Director of Wildfire Recovery. So I'm in the Northeast region. Happy to be here. Thank you.
Thanks, Bob. So a few things that I'm going to go through today. And so I'm going to touch base a little bit about the provincial strategic threat analysis, which brings us into how we come across and come into our wildland urban interface wildfire risk reduction plan. We'll chat a little bit about the areas of interest that we focused on throughout the Northeast region, and then focus in on Fort Nelson and what do all of these acronyms mean, areas of interest, wildfire management units, wildfire risk reduction units, and fuel treatment units. We'll look at the next steps and what kind of timelines are associated with them, and then some potential future work that we're looking at in the Fort Nelson area, as well as other communities, and leave you with a few of our contacts as well. So really colorful picture here. And so this is our provincial strategic threat analysis. The most recent one was completed in 2021, and it was designed to consistently assess and map potential wildfire threat to values that are kind of across the landscape. This includes communities, infrastructure, and natural resources. And it's to integrate different aspects of wildfire hazard and risk. So the provincial strategic threat analysis offers local governments and private landowners, industry, and other stakeholders an opportunity to review the threat ratings in their areas of interest, and then to assess how much fire prevention work has been done in those areas. So like fire smart activities or fuel management treatments. And then from there to determine what additional steps you can take to safeguard any interests in the area. The PSTA is, it can aid any kind of resource managers and additional proponents in viewing land management activities through more of a fire management lens, where the objectives can include reducing damage from wildfires, improving the effectiveness and cost efficiency of wildfire suppression, and making ecosystems and communities more fire resilient. And when you combine with the wildland urban interface information, the analysis can help us identify priority areas and communities of interest for further review. So This analysis itself, it has many things within it, including the threat rating map, which you see on the screen. So this image shows us a picture of the Fort Nelson area, where you see a bunch of different colors overlapping the community and surrounding areas. So green is the lowest risk, and then it goes up to red, which is high risk and extreme. So the key inputs that go into the PSTA are fire density and head fire intensity and spotting impact, and then the wildland urban interface, which is the buffer around the communities, and that is more kind of geared towards structure density as well. So fire density represents the ignition and fire spread potential in the area. And then head fire intensity is done at the 90th percentile weather conditions, and then which is the highest 10% for temperature, and then the lowest 10% of relative humidity values. So it's more of represents the intensity of the flaming front of a fire, and that's taken into account with suppression efforts. The spotting impact represents the ability for embers from something such as a group of trees to be sent up in the air and for a certain distance, and then the ability to start new fires from that. So those three data layers are then combined and together to produce a final wildfire threat analysis value. And then so the values range from 0 to 100. And then those results go into and are assigned to those 10 classes that you see on the screen there. And that produces a detailed map of wildfire threat throughout the province. So the most severe overall threat classes and the ones that we look at within our team are the ones that are class 7. So that's the orange there, and then higher. So the areas of the province that fall within those higher risk classes are most in need of risk mitigation, wherever it's feasible to do so. It's also really important to remember that the PSTA represents an analysis that's conducted in a single point in time and does not consider like future changes to fuels, land use, or climate. So if you notice, even the area of the Parker Lake fire that's rated as red from 2021, whereas now it would potentially be rated slightly lower. So we put together a wildland urban interface wildfire risk reduction plan, a WUI WRR. And last year we put it out so while looking at the PSTA across the Northeast region, then we chose some communities throughout the region and put those communities into a plan, and then put that plan up for on BC bid for a contract for risk analysis. And so that plan was being worked on last year. There's quite a few different presentations from Frontera and from myself as well throughout the region to just chat about where we were at with the plan. It kind of was in progress from about July and then finalized in January and February of this year. And then also missing from this picture, we did an amendment to the plan and added in Prophet River, as well as one other industrial area around Tumbler Ridge as well. So this is just a close-up image of Fort Nelson. We take the areas of interest from that plan and that were included into it. And then, so Fort Nelson area, it was originally actually 3 different areas, and then we combined them all together. It was Muskwa and then the old Fort Nelson, but the airport area, and then the Fort Nelson main community. So we combined those into one area of interest unit to go into the WUI plan. So from here, the consultant that we hired, which was Frontera Forest Solutions, they completed the risk assessments on the areas of interest, which further breaks down the larger polygons into different types of units, either units to watch for future potential work, which would be like more of a monitor unit, or units that can require fuel management prescriptions. So you can see the picture under the wildfire management unit. So they start with kind of breaking it down that way, and then they look further into wildfire risk reduction units and fuel treatment units. So in the underneath the wildfire risk reduction units picture, you'll see the green area, which is management units. So those are, again, the ones that we would watch and monitor over time. Pink are the proposed fuel treatment units. So those are ones that we would look to for potential treatments. And then blue, there's only a small portion of blue that was identified, but those are non-productive units. So ones that we would not really look into any further. And then keeping in mind that the focus of this plan and program is on Crown land that's adjacent to communities. So it doesn't take into account private or municipal land. So the units that we're looking at this year, I just have highlighted here. The pink is the fuel treatment units that were proposed at the end of the WUI WRR plan. And then the arrow with the dark orange is what we put into be a higher priority unit for this year. So that is that unit itself was 112 hectares, and then the lighter orange area is more of a second priority, and that was an additional 46 hectares. So, I mean, yeah, what does it mean, like high priority and second priority? To us, it's just that we've looked at the risk ranking that came out of the WUI plan. And if it was risk ranked like a number 1, then, and we worked with our prevention officer to do a closer analysis within our team as well. And, what can we look at realistically treating sooner rather than later. And so this unit here that's with the orange arrow, the darker one, that one we've asked the prescription contractor, which is also Frontera this year, to deliver that prescription in September. And then with the hopes that if we have funding available, then we would be able to start working forward on any kind of fuel treatment if that's what's prescribed for that unit. Whereas the lighter orange arrow, the unit that it's pointing to, is also, well, we've asked for a prescription for that area. It, along with the majority of the other ones throughout the Northeast region, has a delivery timeline more, I think it was December, actually, December and January. So there was other units that were also risk ranked like a number 1, not just that long linear feature along the pipeline there. There were some ones that were up in the north side of the highway that were in the northwest, and those overlapped areas that the community forest is working on as well. And then also there's ones on the north side of the community that kind of circle around that donut area. And those ones also overlap with areas that the community forest is going to work on. So in an effort to be able to try to accomplish being able to work on multiple different areas that would be able to impact the community, that we chose ones that weren't being focused on by the community forest. And also, just while this picture is up, I wanted to touch base quickly along the south side of the highway, the pipeline bypass road. That was brought up in a comment from earlier meetings about potentially looking at that road as being more productive and able to defend against a wildfire than the pipeline area. And so we have looked at that one with Enrico, and we're gathering some more data on that one. Haven't really gotten anything back yet, but Frontera was going to be looking into that one. And then we also have some crews up there as well that were going to send us some pictures and some feedback. But when I spoke with Enrico, our prevention officer, he said that kind of discussed the fact that the road was about 10.5 kilometers that you'd have to be able to defend, whereas the pipeline area is 4.5 kilometers, 4.25. So it's an easier area to be able to defend for the community. So we definitely haven't rolled out the road, but we are still going to go forward with the original plan and then see what can be done for the road area. So the next steps that we would be looking at would be right now, like after the WUI plan, then we've already phased into our prescription development. We've already awarded the archaeological assessment contract as well. So that one is in progress. I think that they start their field portion of work next week, actually. So we have a meeting with them tomorrow to discuss that piece, but they are already doing desktop assessments as well. From there, in-house step 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 are kind of more in-house work. So we do some First Nations consultation, and that goes hand in hand with the tenure application. And once we have those first 4 steps completed, then we move on to contract development and then post that to BC Bid for hopefully awarding the contract and implementing it after that. So types of things that can come out of those prescriptions are, cultural and prescribed burns. We're looking at pruning, mulching, chipping. It just depends on the site and what's prescribed, or mechanical treatments with skidders and bunchers and that sort of big heavy equipment. There's challenges with each type of work. And especially with each site, it really depends on how wet the area is. If we're needing to be in there, if we need heavy equipment and we need to be in there in the winter, then you're looking at timing constraints that way as well. And then moving into more potential future work that we're looking at for the next few years, we're looking at some additional areas of interest and potential prescriptions or work that can come out of those areas for wildfire risk reduction. So Toad River, Pink Mountain, Doig River, and One Island Lake and Kelly Lake are ones that we're looking at. In the past, Toad River and Pink Mountain have both been looked at, but while they were rated as low risk in the past, I think we're all aware of the changes in climate and drought codes throughout the region. And so we're hoping to have another look at those. I'm actually coming up next month. So my aim is to also head out to Toad River. And then operational treatments in the next few years. So completing some in Fort Nelson, Kiskatna, Chetwynd, Tumbler Ridge, Hudson's Hope, and Prophet River. And that is the end of my show. Is there any questions from anybody?
Thank you very much for the presentation. Does council have any questions for Christina? Councillor Roper, please.
Thanks for taking the time to meet with us. Wildfire risk is a growing threat that we're working hard to address at the community level. We do have a local Fire Smart and Wildfire Resilience Committee, and they've been actively coordinating education, mitigation efforts, and planning. And it's not so much a question, but just want to put it out there. I'm really hoping the ministry can connect directly with the local committee to support and align efforts on the ground.
Yeah, thank you for that. Absolutely. So it was about 3 weeks ago. I did a similar presentation to that same committee. And I've met with them before that as well. And so, and when I come up to Fort Nelson, then I'll definitely meet up with Terry, your guys' Fire Smart coordinator, in person too, if he's available. So yeah, definitely want to make sure that we're communicating and we're working together. What the plans that can be done with the Fire Smart coordinator, it's nice to be able to have those in conjunction with any plans so that they can work together. Definitely important to have open communication between those two groups for sure.
Great, thanks very much.
Yeah, Christine and Bob have made presentations to the committee, and the committee has really been pressing the idea that we should be working together so that we can maximize the funds that are available. So rather than stepping on each other's toes, really understanding what we all can do so that then it comes along, the result comes faster. So yeah, so I certainly appreciate that Christina and Bob and Melanie, yeah, have been interacting with us quite a bit. So yeah, we saw this WUI plan, and as she said, Frontera did a presentation for the committee before it was really even done yet. They let us know sort of some of the things and asked if we had any ideas that they might be able to incorporate. And the the pipe road one is one of those things. And so for me, that was the question I was going to ask Christina, and you answered it by letting us know sort of Enrico's position on that. And you did say though that you were considering that and you're just gathering more information. So will there be a time where you get that opportunity to present I guess your final conclusion to the committee with respect to doing a fuel management prescription along that pipe road?
Yeah, so I actually had met with Frontera this morning, but the person that had gone up to Fort Nelson and also Prophet River, he wasn't able to attend the meeting this morning. I was hoping to have more information, or kind of hands-on information for you about the road and what their thoughts were. So hopefully soon, but I don't have anything set in stone. Within the next couple of weeks, we'll have another meeting with them and be able to gather that information and kind of take it forward from there.
Yeah, the committee's, again, the committee is really looking for that fuel management prescription rather than the fuel management work, right? Because we know that that's where the expensive part is actually doing, actually acting on that prescription with the treatment. So I think just trying to incorporate that as soon as we can, because we have some funds that potentially we can access. So
Right.
yeah, so understanding that what the prescription might be, I think is really where the committee wants to be as soon as possible. But I know you've got that in your mind, so
You bet.
thanks for that. And we'll look forward to whatever you guys are able to come up with. Does anybody else have anything for Christina or Bob? Councillor Solz, please.
Yeah, just on the first slide you showed with the fire risk map, did you comment that was actually compiled in 2021, or was that the original that had been updated for this map that you showed us?
So no, the data from the provincial strategic threat analysis is from 2021. And I haven't heard, we've asked a few times, like when they're thinking of being able to redo that entire analysis. But I haven't gotten a set date back unless Bob has more to offer to that one.
Okay, just because I noted that some of the really low risk area is part of the area that burned in the Parker Lake fire. In fact, where it originated, according to that map, it was in the really low risk area in the green.
Yeah.
Anyway, so just to keep that in mind, that we recognize that the conditions locally, we're in the most serious drought we have ever in our lifetime seen here.
Yeah.
And so the fuel load is getting more volatile as we go until we see the return of some rains. Just a question that I had regarding, once again, back to the pipeline mainline road and so on. I know that if you will look, when you look at your maps overall, I'm looking right now at one of them on my laptop. that actually includes the overall treatment area overlaid with the Parker Fire. And you notice that north of the community, you have a bunch of farmland and there's no risk there. And we did that for free, by the way, developing all those farms. The cost of fire reduction or fire risk reduction was borne by farmers developing grassland. Thank you very much. And I think that I'm wondering if that idea, either through the resiliency committee or other means, has made it to the table at all, because from a prescriptive point of view, if you look at the area adjacent to the Alaska Highway on the south side, across from the farmland and between there and the pipe mainline road, that all could be farmland too. And then you have a very cheap conversion into a very effective fire safe idea. So I just think that idea is not likely to, I don't know whether that idea has showed up. Can you answer that one?
So a couple things here. I'm gonna just answer one piece, and then I think Bob has something to add from your previous comment. But so it's not that private land doesn't have a risk associated with it. It could be lower because they're farm fields, but the PSTA doesn't take into account the private property risk. So that's where your Fire Smart coordinator and the community resiliency committees come into play. So I think Bob was going to talk maybe to something a bit more for Nelson related.
Sure, yeah, so Danny, I think we met last time I was there and around the agriculture piece, so that's definitely been planted in my mind. And the BC Wildfire and ourselves are going to be working on a plan, a longer term plan on how to address the fires here. So, I know your opinion, but is that the council's opinion, or is that your opinion, or probably a bit more clear on that?
Sorry, just from a council opinion, I happen to be one of the farmers in the world, in the area, and it's a small community. And so I wasn't actually questioning the fire, whether it, the fact that it doesn't include the private land in its analysis. I wasn't questioning that at all. I'm just saying that an idea that I have talked with various farmers about, and like I say, there's few of us, that the conversion of some of the land into a community pasture or something like that would also be a prescriptive form of creating a fire barrier. And so I'm not trying to throw any wrenches in. I'm just asking if that has been part of anyone's discussion around
it will be. It hasn't been. It's still ongoing. These discussions are still ongoing. So
yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I'll jump in there from the committee's perspective. That there's a couple different things that have to be done in order: the fuel management prescription, then the fuel treatment, and then maintenance of whatever it is that you create. And so the committee is recognized that farmland is a potential way that you keep the management of whatever zone you create, whatever treatments you create. Farmland or agricultural land is potentially the way to go. So it's certainly in the discussions that we're having at the local level, and of course we're working with Christina and Bob along the way. So I'm sure that will get into the conversations later as we start moving from trying to prescribe what the treatment should be to actually doing the treatment. That's where I think that discussion will really play well. Would you agree with that statement, Bob?
I would. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Perfect. Okay. Bob, would you, is there anything that you or we had to answer questions, or do you have a presentation or a few thoughts for council?
No, I just appreciate obviously the interest in what we're doing, and I just want to make sure that we're all introduced myself. I was there a couple of weeks ago, and Christine, so we're just familiar with each other, and lines of communication are open. So hope to be up there again one more time this summer. So good.
Perfect. Are there any last comments or questions for Christina or Bob? Seeing none, thank you very much for your presentation tonight. Thank you for answering our questions, and we look forward to continuing working together And Christina, I hope we'll see you in the community soon.
Yes, thank you. Thanks for having us. Really appreciate it. And yeah.
And Bob, of course, you're always welcome. You were just here, so thank you.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye. Okay, that is petitions and delegations. So that brings us to section 9, reports, bylaws and policies. So 9.1 in the agenda is the administrative report 39, the cumulative impacts of emergencies on businesses. Christina, welcome. What did I say, Christina? Krista, I'm sorry. I had Christina in my brain. Boy, I'm tongue-tied tonight. Krista, please.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. This report just comes to you. Apparently your tongue tied is transferring over. For information based off of some conversations that we've had with businesses as we are just in and around the community talking to people. They are starting to see the cumulative impacts of the road closures last year and then this year. And then especially as you talk to more tourism connected businesses that may see a longer impact outside of the specific time period of the incident. So just bringing it to council's awareness. No immediate solutions are identified at this point. However, we'll continue to talk to other regional organizations and businesses. But kind of wanted to just plant the seed that if there's an opportunity potentially in the future to talking to ministers or other organizations, that there might be something that we can work towards for maybe next year or future years. Benefit for businesses, especially ones that don't fall into the existing programs because they're outside of a service area, but are for a order area, but they're still impacted. Yeah.
Thank you, Krista. Are there any questions for Krista? Great report, good reminder. And I made a note to, we should add it to any discussions that we're having with ministers. Because every time you do talk to them, somebody says, well, what's been the impact? Well, they don't say, how can they help us? But they say, what's been the impact? And a report like this can help us to pass that information along to everybody. And it is unfortunate, but yeah, year over year, the road closures for the different reasons, from beaver dams washing out the highway to fires, and us certainly has had a negative impact on all the businesses along the highway and in town. So thank you. Is anybody else? Okay, thank you. I don't think you're asking us to do anything except keep it in our mind.
That is it.
Okay, thank you. That brings us then to administrative report 40, which is the Destination BC video launch. Also,
Yeah.
Ms. Vandersteen.
Yes.
I'll get that right. Krista, please.
This one's also just for your information. So Destination BC had some people up here filming around the Gotta Go project last fall. And I met up with them and ended up chit-chatting and supporting the content of the video. So we just wanted to let you know that is being launched in the next, I guess, 10 days. July 25th is when they're planning on pushing it out through all of their channels. But they did give the go ahead to kind of give you the this heads up. And then, yeah, it's just a video that is intended really to help support them sharing why destination development projects are so important and how it connects to communities, so it's benefiting communities as well as the visitors, and hopefully helps draw future grant programs to continue to happen in the future. And then it just is always good to have awareness of our region out there. So
Thank you. You put a link to the video,
there is a
and
link to
the one
video.
particularly on Gotta Go, and I went there. It's very short.
Yeah, 2
But I
minutes.
thought it was very good. Yeah, it really shows the importance again of the building destination, but also, I was very curious about how people are reacting to the signage that they created, the whole design of those signs, and I think it shows that off really well too, because I believe that, if we start doing that sort of signage although it's expensive,
Mhm.
if we start doing that sort of informational signage in the community, I think it links into this whole concept that they're doing with this circle route and having the same types of signage all across the Alaska Highway. So, yeah, so I thought it was really good. Anybody else have any comments? Okay, thank you very much for both those reports. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, that brings us to 9.3, which is report 41, the Ready Program 2025 Q2 update for information. See, Miss Penny is here. Yes, she is there. Oh, she's in her car somewhere. Thank you very much for zooming in. Is there anything that you'd like to say about your report?
Thank you, Mayor Fraser and council. This report is the Q2 update of the Ready program. It's for information, but just to highlight, there was no new recipients for this quarter. And I've also included the budget for your information to see where we are at this time and what's remaining for 2025. So if you have any questions or concerns.
Pretty straightforward report. Thank you. I see we're halfway through the year and there's a little over halfway of the money left. So that's good from a budget perspective.
That is good.
I don't have any questions. Does any council have? Council Roper, please.
I'm just curious how the housing situation is going. Are we utilizing these accommodations that we've renovated and been donated to?
Absolutely. So Condo 66 has accommodated a PRA candidate who was here and now has Dr. Faree in there for the next 3 months. 36, however, is still under renovations. We hope to have them done by September 1st, at which point we will move the nursing staff over to 36.
Just a follow up, do you anticipate any further requirements for housing, or are we good for now?
No, we will require more housing, as we will be, and this is a good thing, I guess, we'll be 0.5 over our normal amount of physicians this fall with a new physician coming, and again in the spring with a new physician coming. These physicians are coming to eventually replace physicians, so it's just for a transition period.
Great, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Yeah, any other questions? Seeing none, thank you very much. Ms. Penny and Ms. Holy Diana for the report. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, so that brings us to item 9.4 in the agenda, Northern Rockies Regional Municipality, the official community plan amendment bylaw, number 236, first and second readings.
Evening, Mayor and councilors.
Good evening.
So before you is a report in follow up to the one that was presented on June 23rd regarding the Midnight Sun manufactured home park. The report recommends that the NRM proceed with amendments to the official community plan as well as the zoning bylaw to rezone the parcels located at 4603 50th Avenue South from commercial to residential manufactured home park. The parcel is identified in attachment 1 for your reference. And as noted in the June 23rd report, rezoning aims to legalize the lawful non-conforming status of the manufactured home park. In addition, a site-specific zoning amendment is proposed to accommodate up to 48 manufactured home sites within those parcels. That exceeds the limit that would be permitted under the residential manufactured home park zone, which would be a limit of 35 units. So a request of 48 is included as well. Information is included in the report regarding housing needs, duration of existing use, as well as availability of commercial lands within Fort Nelson. These points were all considered to formulate the recommendations included in the report. First and second readings are also recommended in relation to the site-specific zoning amendment pertaining to density. However, it is recommended by staff that a site plan is provided prior to third reading regarding density. The reason for the recommendation for the site plan is that 48 manufactured home sites were established in the 1970s, which generally measure 40 feet by 60 feet. Since then and over time, manufactured homes have generally become larger. Although smaller units are available, they do include things like custom designed manufactured home and cottages. And a site plan would allow us to proactively plan the manufactured home park as opposed to dealing with building permits on a case-by-case basis once replacement's requested. The information derived from the site plan could also be used to inform a covenant on title, restricting density and/or size of units that would be allowed to be replaced in the park. Attachment 3 provides a visual of Midnight Sun at a point in time when density was quite high. I think there was roughly 45 to 46 units at that time, and you can see there's instances where units are encroaching onto the road as well as units that have been placed parallel along the road. So the requirement for a site plan would help address some of those issues in advance and ensure that the density that you're considering for approval has been justified by the applicant. Finally, following first and second readings, it's recommended that public notification occur as in accordance with the Local Government Act, as well as a public hearing to take place on August the 11th. With that, I'll turn it over to council for any questions.
Thank you, Lisa. Does council have any questions?
I
Councilor
just have the one question to follow up on the few mobile homes that are immediately behind Lakeview that are sort of attached to that. Is there any, I know that's not part of the Midnight Sun, but how are they zoned while we're looking at rezoning the Midnight Sun?
Yeah, there's quite a few properties in and around that area actually that have manufactured homes. So that one in particular is zoned as C2. And based on my research, it appears to be lawful non-conforming as well.
So there's an opportunity then at the official community plan and the zoning bylaw that'll come out of that renewal of the community plan to deal with these?
I would
These-
suggest that my opinion is that we keep the zoning as is and that these are driven by proponents or property owners to submit applications if they wish to change it. Some property owners may not want to. There's quite a few. I mean, there's at least 6 instances I can think of off the top of my head of lawful non-conforming. And which if we just took a blanket approach, we'll end up with a light industrial and commercial area with donut holes in it where we've decided to change zoning. The idea honestly behind these manufactured homes is over time that they're not replaced and that the land is used as it's intended in the OCP and zoning bylaw.
Okay, thanks. Is there any other questions? Okay, so this plan is an old plan? Is that the one that's in the report? That's the old,
That one was developed in around 1970, 1971, when the manufactured home park was first established.
right? So we're looking for something other than this one from the proponent.
The recommendation is that prior to approving or doing third reading on that zoning amendment or site specific, I personally think that there needs to be something to justify that density makes sense.
Okay, and have we discussed that with the proponent? Yeah,
have.
oh, we have, okay.
Yeah, and they're not, necessarily in favor of that. The plan, shows 48 pads and there's smaller units that can fit onto those sites. But this proactive approach of requiring a site plan and having to put some thought around fire setbacks and zoning setbacks creates a more planned out and thoughtful manufactured home park and avoids things like what you see in attachment 3 where fire and health and safety might not be entirely considered. It also avoids putting the building inspector and the planner in a position of having to say no if something comes in that's 60, 70 feet long that won't fit onto on the current parcels.
Right. Okay, good. What are council's wishes? There's a recommendation there. Anybody? Does nobody want to put it forward because it's so long they don't want to read it? Councilor Roper, please.
I'll go with the recommendation to move the first and second readings be given to the Northern Rockies Regional Municipality Official Community Plan Amendment, Highway Commercial to Urban Residential Bylaw number 236, 2025, and that first and second readings be given to the Northern Rockies Regional Municipality Zoning Amendment 4603 50th Ave South C2, C3 to RMH Bylaw number 237, 2025, associated with parcels of land located at 4603 50th Avenue South, Fort Nelson, legally described as Lot 1 District, Lot 1595, Peace River District, Plan 18589, Lot 2 District, Lot 1595, Peace River District Plan 18589, and District Lot 1596, Peace River District, and that prior to third reading, the property owner provide a detailed site plan demonstrating that the proposed density is achievable in compliance with applicable BC building code requirements, zoning regulations, and fire safety setback requirements, and that a public hearing be scheduled for August 11th, 2025 at 6 p.m.
Thank you very much, Councilor Roper is duly moved, and I'm glad you did, because the way I'm tongue-tied tonight, I'd never be able to get all the way through it. Do I have a seconder, please? Second by Councilor Enox. Is there any further discussion on that motion? Okay, seeing none, all in favor? Are there any opposed? That's carried. Thank you very much. That then takes us all the way down. That's the last order of business on reports. That takes us to 10 for discussion, correspondence. So for discussion, there are two pieces of correspondence, I think. One for sure that I see on there. So there is a letter from the Cascadene on the land use project that's here for discussion. So could I have somebody move that for discussion, please? Moved by Councilor Sol, second by Councilor Enox. All in favor? Are there any opposed? Okay, that is on the floor. So is there anybody from staff who would like to talk to this particular? Am I right? Sure.
Elisa Comp, she's in the illness this one.
Thank you, Lisa. Hope we haven't put you on the spot.
No, not at all.
Okay.
So yeah, essentially this is a letter that was sent out to interested parties that may be affected by the land use planning process. It's currently underway in the Northwest area concerning the Casca BC land use planning and which will eventually or is envisioned to result in the development of an Indigenous protected and conserved area. So this was just provided recently by the Ministry of Water, Lands and Resource Stewardship. And as well, it includes a bit of a poster and a QR code where folks can submit survey comments. And it was also sent out to the Northern Rockies Roundtable, as well as I think it was shared on our social media platforms as well.
Thank you, Lisa. Have we, did we make a determination that we were going to send a letter to them saying that we thought the July 25th deadline was way too soon? Did we resolve to do that? I know we talked about it at the Toad River meeting. No, so this is the meeting for that because the Toad River meeting has been, yeah, okay. So I believe, and we got a lot of feedback at the Toad River meeting that this was too soon, that the people who are, or not the people, some of the people who are impacted by this, this is their busy season. All of the highway lodge owners, this is their busy season, and they're being asked to respond to something that will be pretty significant if it goes through in its presented form from the Cascadene. And you know, they're in their busiest season with respect to when they're earning, you know, their yearly I guess income and while they're up there. And so I believe we should at least send that note to say that we think that the deadline of the 25th is too short a timeline for the scope of this project. So the project itself, and I'm pulling the numbers from what I recall from the Toad River meeting, is potentially 9 million hectares. 3 million hectares of it are in the Northern Rockies Regional Municipality. Potentially, not exactly sure what it's setting the land aside for. I think we still have to figure out exactly what we can and can't do if this conservancy is actually put into place. But it's 3 million hectares of the Northern Rockies Regional Municipality, which again starts to shrink potentially the ability for economic development, whether it's forestry, mining, oil and gas. And my bigger concern is access to the general public. As you all know, there are several places along the Alaska Highway between here and Watson Lake that are used by residents of the Northern Rockies Regional Municipality. And I think it's important that we put up, if not a presentation, then certainly our views with respect to the continued access of those areas. Hilgren Lakes, West Lakes, Crooked Lake, any part of the Muskoka-Chika that people are actually accessing now, there's potential for loss of that. Once we, as you said, it's just really being put out there now with respect to they're gathering information. And so the other thing that Lisa pointed out to was the survey that's good till July the 25th, and I encourage everybody to fill that survey out. So I think I have a couple of hands up. Councillor Going, I think your hand was up first, and then John, you've got. I thought your hand. Okay, Councillor Going, please see your hand up.
Yeah, so I thought that I'm remembering a previous discussion where we were going to include in our written response some of the map overlays showing all of the restrictions coming out of the provincial government on the NRM, leaving us not a whole lot of land to be able to do much with. I thought we had a discussion about that.
Yep. So if you recall, during the first presentation that was made to council by the Minister of Water, Lands and Resource Stewardship, there was an opportunity at the end of the presentation. They invited council to provide questions. So I know Councillor Gerwing, you had submitted some comments. So those, in addition to the comments that were made during the Toad River meeting, I forwarded those to the Ministry of Water, Lands and Resource Stewardship. And Councillor Gerwing, one of those comments was around that cumulative impacts from land use planning and the lack of coordination between the ministries when those are being developed.
Did we actually? Go ahead, Lorraine.
I just wanted it reconfirmed that if we're going to send a letter that we include that in it. And then I also have a comment about the survey, so I can do that now or I can wait for your response, Mayor.
Go ahead with the survey question.
You made the point, I believe it was at that same meeting, that so often the survey responses are from people from out of our area. So we had hoped that there would be the ability to track the survey responses, like who is in the NRM or out of the NRM, so that we get a better picture, a better overall picture of what people, the respondents, actually think.
So are you suggesting that's something we should be doing or something that we should be asking the ministry to do?
Something that we should include in our letter if we're going to
Right.
write to the ministry, that we should make that a point too.
Yeah, I agree with that. And so if we agree that we should be sending a letter saying that we've got more feedback, we would like to, give it. One, the timeline is too short. One, here's a map that shows the cumulative impacts that we're aware of. You start putting in there the restrictions around forestry for the caribou, this and any other land use. We could start fires. I think we had put some of that all in there.
And the mining moratorium.
yeah, if we can sort of overlay all of that onto a map to send with this, I think that's also important. So, and then, yeah, the request to separate or at least keep track of responses from within the NRM and those outside of the NRM. I think those are all valid things. So,
Thank you.
yeah. Does anybody else have any ideas or questions? Go ahead.
And I was just gonna add, Toad River, there was a lot of discussion around ensuring that the economic impacts were fully considered, which we haven't necessarily seen in other plans.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, the province has said that they'll do economic impact studies and then the end of it comes around and there hasn't been anything. And that's been consistent both with the short time that I've been here and all of the time that I was with the Peace River Regional District around Southern Mountain caribou issues that were going on there. Same, they said they'd do it, said they'd involve us in it and never really got to that point. So is there consensus to send another feedback letter on top of the feedback when they did a presentation, specifically to respond to this request for information from the land use planners? Is there consensus that we send them a letter? So if there is, can I have a resolution then that we respond to the letter from the land use planners, copied to whoever it's appropriate to copy it to?
Yeah,
Go ahead, Lorraine.
I would make that motion to include the points that we have earlier spoken about.
Right. I hate to put the pressure on, but I think there's three basic things we're looking for in there.
I would say there's 4, including the economic impact.
All right,
assessment.
4, counting the impact assessment. Okay.
Because I just wanted to add, when he did that presentation, he said that there would be an economic study done, but we know how long those takes, and you have previously made the points that they don't get done, and they're on a year timeline. There is just physically not enough time to do this study. So like, we just don't think that it's going to get done.
Yeah. And I think we need to show that we're active. So can you read me back the resolution? I know it's.
That's okay.
No.
So moved by Councillor Gerwing to respond to the letter from the land use planners, copied to whomever appropriate, including the points previously discussed, which included including a map which illustrates the various restrictions and the constraints on land use as a result. Requesting that survey responses be tracked so that we can better understand the responses from our area. Noting that the timeline is too tight to be useful for local residents who are directly impacted, and then the value of an economic impact study.
Perfect. Do I have a seconder? Second by Councillor Enax. Any discussion on that motion? Seeing none, all in favor? Are there any opposed? That's carried. Thank you very much. Okay, I was looking for, it's under 10.8. Okay, so there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 pieces of correspondence for information. Somebody move those for information, please. Moved by Councillor Enax, second by Councillor Souls. All in favor? Are there any opposed? Seeing none, that's carried. That brings us to 10.8, which is a letter from a concerned citizen with respect to bylaw enforcement around derelict properties. If we can put that on the floor for discussion, please. Moved by Councillor Souls, second by Councillor Roper. All in favor? Opposed? There's none. That is on the floor. So this was a letter that was, I think all of us received a copy of it. Staff have put it on the agenda. The councillor who brought it forward is not here to speak to it. Is there anybody who would like to speak to it? I know Councillor Gerwing, you had thought you would like to bring up a discussion on this letter. I'll start with you.
Oh, okay. I wholeheartedly agree with the letter as it was written. The CAO has responded to our email queries, citing that to date 33 actions have been taken on 33 individual properties, And then I further responded back that hopefully we can put that out on our social channels to inform our citizens that property maintenance bylaw is being enforced and action is being taken.
Okay, thank you. Is there anybody else? Counselor Souls?
I think the message is starting to get out because somebody's been out spraying poison on weeds all over in the industrial park behind us. So I'm kind of thinking that this is starting to, people are getting their mail, their letters, yeah.
Okay. Anybody else? So I'll let staff respond to what's been happening. I know the chief made a presentation to the wildfire committee the other night about actions that he's been taking, but maybe you'd like to inform the public and the council the actions that have been going on.
Yeah, we've got, as Councilor Gerwing said, that was communication back to council last week, approximately 33 that are currently in process. And of course, that list continues to grow as summer continues and grass grows or whatnot. Typically, a lot of these are to do with unsightly premises regarding that, but it's whatever fits within the bylaw. There's a very lengthy process that we have to follow before we get action. We go to process it. So currently, for example, there's 15 in the order to comply stage out of the 33-ish that we're currently at, which those 15 expire this Wednesday, which gives us then the ability to act, to be able to access a property. And again, we just don't arbitrarily Thursday morning go and start jumping on residents' properties or property owners, because we still need to go through a process and follow that to make sure that we meet the required legislation from a privacy perspective, because there's a lot of steps we have to go through to actually access a property, including notifying the property owner and agreeing about a time. The hope is that in the meantime, they bring that property back up to a standard. And then if not, then we deal with the non-compliance and go in and clean it up, usually with a contractor, and then that's typically charged back on their taxes. The majority right now that are in order to comply are, I'll call them repeat offenders. So we skip the stage of warnings at that point. So we like to educate, because that's been council's direction in the past, to educate the public, make sure they're aware, give them an opportunity. The ones that have already been, I'll say, educated, we jump right to the order to comply stage, which then that just allows us to act quicker and for lack of a better word, skip a step, which is a warning piece.
So the main reason that this is a complicated process is because you're accessing personal property, number one. And so that can be a dangerous thing, I suppose, or create risk for our employees who do it. And then ultimately we put it on their taxes. So there's the ability to actually charge them back on their taxes. So that's why the process for entering onto these private properties is so cumbersome. Is that correct?
Yeah, and the fact that we're entering on a private property from a privacy perspective, from a person's individual rights.
Yeah.
We have to follow the steps too, right? So we need to ensure that we do what we can on our end to make sure that technically we're navigating and stick handling through it so that we don't get back from a technical perspective, someone come in and say this wasn't followed appropriately, which again, if we go back a few short years ago, we never did this. This is not something, this is new to this as an organization and dealing with it. And of course, I think it's a combination of both. It's something from council direction to proactively deal with this as a bylaw. And in addition, of course, there's been an increase in unsightly premises due to the economic downturn in the community and people leaving community and stuff. So,
yeah.
So a bit of all the above, I guess I would say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the last point I want to make before I go to Councillor Gerwing is, did I understand the chief correctly at the Fire Smart Resiliency Committee that these 33 properties are south of the highway? That's what he told us. So they really only, he wants to do, or he's going to do the north half of the highway, but right now these 33 properties are all in the south half.
Not that I'm aware of. I could be wrong. So we've typically focused north on the residential side. That's usually where we've gotten have the most issues. We've expanded our focus south. So we do have some, I just don't know where the distribution is.
All right. So could you clarify?
I can clarify that. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Gerwing, please.
Yeah, I wonder if we could just take this opportunity to inform our public that there is a process in place. You can, as a citizen, report unsightly properties by calling 250-774-2541 extension, I don't know. Anybody know?
So I think as this will be reported in the Bear Pit, right? In the newsletter that goes out. And so there's that opportunity to add that in there, I think. And this was an anonymous letter brought to us by Councillor Andrews. And so there's no ability to actually respond to the person. But hopefully Councillor Andrews will see what we did and respond to whoever that was on our behalf.
Sorry, Mayor.
Go ahead.
There was one issue that was brought to your attention in this letter regarding an unguarded excavation. So we weren't aware of a location. So Sean took a drive around the community to see if we can figure out, because there was one excavation from a house that was torn down due to a fire last year that actually originally had fencing around it, around the excavation, which has since been removed, but it looks like they're doing some work on the property. So Sean was dealing with that one today also. Typically from a public safety perspective, if we have concerns, we can act a little quicker, but again, it depends on what the situation is. So he was working with the property owner to deal with that situation too.
It says specifically it was unguarded. I know the old hotel down here has the old pool on it, right? But it's guarded. It's got a fence around it. So
Yeah,
I wasn't sure what they were
it was
talking
a
about.
residential property that was,
Okay.
that originally had some fencing around. It looks like it was removed to access to do some work on the property. So he was working that just today, I believe, if it wasn't Friday.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good. All right. I think we're finished with that particular piece of correspondence. 10.9 is the mayor's discretionary charges for the second quarter. There's a $250 charge on there for the Northern Trail Society, the Doors Open campaign that we discussed. They were looking for a donation to keep the museum open, I believe, on days that they might not have been. So that's what's on there. Any questions on that? Okay, then 10.11 is new business. There is none. That brings us to 12.1, which is councillor reports. Do any of you have any reports? Councillor next, please.
I was waiting for Lorraine to pop her hand up. I don't know how far I gotta go back because I know I didn't say too much the last round. So I'll just start June 20th, or actually June 21st. We'll go back one more. June 19th, the meeting with Jordan Keeley. I attended that. June 21st, I attended by Zoom the special Toad River meeting. June 23rd was a special community of the whole meeting. June 24th, I attended the first wildfire resilience committee. So I've seen that presentation twice. Excellent presentation. June 25th, I attended the UBCM preparations meeting. And June 26th, I attended my last Fort Nelson senior secondary grad. All my hockey kids have finally graduated. So now I can go if I want to. Not because I have to. June 27th, I went to the chamber lunch with Bob Zimmer, and he handed out the King's Coronation Medal to our very own Beth Vanderstein. So I'd like to congratulate her again. July 1st, I rode on the boat throwing candy for the Rotary, the Canada Day Parade. Went to the rec center afterwards, and we served, I think, over 50, it was 1,500 hot dogs we served that day. Yeah. So, and then this past July 4th to 6th was a crazy weekend for a bunch of us. We were double booked and running between the motocross track for the PMA motocross races that were out at the track, and held the second Rib Fest in town. And I always like to do a little economic impact after we do that event because it's such a big one. We had tourists from Fort Providence, Fort Simpson, Fort Liard, Watson Lake, Toad River, Fort Nelson First Nation, Prophet River First Nation, and many of the tourists that camped overnight in the campground and in town come through. All our groups and not-for-profits and at one business that we know of together, there was the amount that they made together was $41,302 $4,000.50 with 12,000 of that new money that has hit Fort Nelson that we're all going to share. So bigger than last year. The rain didn't slow anybody down. They danced in the rain and nobody really cared. So until next year, that's it.
Good. Thank you very much. Anybody else? Councillor Growing, are you prepared with the report this week?
Sort of.
Oh, do your best. Do your best. I know you're on vacation, so.
I am on vacation, so, but you know, I didn't want to miss seeing y'all. No, just July 1st, I of course watched our wonderful parade, and then along with you, I helped serve cake to a very many residents and guests of the NRM. It was a great time. I always love July 1st, my second favorite event that we hold. I've on the 3rd, along with yourself and Scott, attended the Northern Health update, as well as working with Grace Manor Executive to revitalize their policy procedure manual. So that's my summer project. And then on the 5th and the 6th, I went twice to Ribfest. So some of that money that Brenda reported on was mine. Yes, fun time. I didn't volunteer at it this year because, yeah, it was very well covered, but I did participate with my money. So it was a great time and wonderful to see everybody out. Yeah, thank you. That's my report.
Thank you. Okay, that'll bring us to my report then, since the last meeting on the 23rd of June. So on the 24th, we did crisis communication. Here I am tongue-tied talking about communication, the crisis communication workshop here. That same day is when Bob Zimmer was in town at the Chamber of Commerce meeting. And we've all talked about the wonderful thing that happened there, but we also talked about, government overspending. He, made it clear that he felt and his party felt that the government was overspending. I asked him, where is there, are we going to see something coming out of this overspending? And he wasn't confident that we would. We talked about immigration an awful lot, and our pilot program that's happening. We talked about rail, and I questioned him about his party support for any Trans-Canada corridor that might come forward. So again, it was good that Bob was in town and we had the ability to have access to him. That was also on the 24th. Then also on the 24th was an in-person meeting that we had between the Wildfire Resiliency Committee and Bob, Christine, Carolyn Vince was here as well as Melanie, and gave the presentation that we saw here tonight to the committee, and they had a lot of questions for him. That brought us to a meeting with later on the 26th of that same week. We met with Carrie Lynn Vince, mainly I think to talk about the forestry situation in the community and the minister's upcoming visit, which was going to be the following Monday. So we met with Carolyn Vince to talk about that. Also attended the meeting with Northern Health, where we on the 3rd. Well, I guess I should say the July 1st celebrations were awesome. We had an awful lot of people in the parade, and a whole route full of people. It was very well attended. And talking to other mayors around, that was something that was big in all communities this year. Is the July 1st celebrations were bigger than they have been in the last few years. So I don't know if that has something to do with the orange man from down south or not, but people were really out. We had a sheet cake there for those of you who weren't there. That sheet cake that was donated by Price Smart, Stavon, sorry. 3 feet by 6 feet piece of ply was huge. We gave that whole cake away that day. you know, it tasted really good. I think that probably people were coming back, but there were a lot of people there and they stuck around for the cake. So it was really good. And we judged in the morning, the chief and I judged a lot of floats. There was a lot of floats there, and I'm trying to remember, it was over 24 entries, and many of those entries had more than one, you know, it was more horses. They were all as one group, but there was a whole bunch of horses. And the rescue society, where it was a rescue society, but they had all of their equipment there, the boat, and yeah, it was really good. So then to July 3rd was the meeting with Northern Health. Colleen Nice is the chair of the board, officiated that particular meeting. She talked about Northern Health, and the province is expecting Northern Health to cut their budget, and they're expected to lower their costs this year. The province is putting some pressure on them. Also that there will be all health authority review by the ministry, which I think, you know, is this audit that we've been asking them to do for many years, goes all the way back to the Northeast Coalition, where we were actually doing as much lobbying as we could to get Northern Health audited from a service perspective, not from a dollar perspective, but from their services. And so that has, I think, eventually morphed its way through the process, through UBCM, up to the Ministry of Health, where they're going to do a review of the entire health ministry, which will take several years. Then Chiro got up and he talked about the measles epidemic that's been happening in the Northeast. He also talked about that Northern Health is becoming more involved in the PREOC. Remind me what PREOC is for. It's the Provincial Response Regional Emergency Operations Center. That's it. So they're getting more involved in that because we saw, you know, after our evacuation, really how poorly Northern Health responded to getting back to the community. And so they've become more involved now at the PREOC and Prince George for all of the potential emergencies that might happen. He talked about emergency room stabilization and how, you know, in the past, it's been mainly nurse caused that these hospitals are being shut down, emergency rooms are being shut down. They're using more external nursing agencies. They've increased the numbers of training spots for emergency room nurses, and they've increased the Go Health BC travel nurses, which is sort of their own internal nurse agency, travel agency for nurses. They believe that that's working to reduce the number of emergency room closures and hospital closures in the north. They're worried about 2025. It's going more from nurses into physician-related closures, and they're working on that. They've increased the number of locums, particularly at the Dawson Creek Hospital, to try to reduce the number of shutdowns that they have throughout Northern Health. So that was that meeting. That then brings us to, which was, I thought was pretty good. If they carry out on all the things that we do, we should see a reduction in the number of emergency room closures. That was July the 3rd. Also on July the 3rd, I gave an interview to Nelson Bennett, who is with Resource Works. And I saw that recently his article came out on Facebook, and there was lots of responses to it. Unfortunately, the picture that he used was not a picture from Fort Nelson. Yeah. So it was of a rural property, but it's that just based on the roads, and it wasn't it was unfortunate he did that, because I think some of the comments that hit there were about the fact that it wasn't in it. It detracted a little bit, I think, from his article, because people got focused on the fact that picture that he used was not from Fort Nelson. But otherwise, I think it was a decent article that outlines some of the investment opportunities that people aren't taking advantage of here. Okay. That brings me to the meeting with Minister Parmar. On the 7th of July, Minister Forrest came to the community, had an opportunity to fly with him and the chief over some of the fires that have happened recently. We flew north, checked out the fire in the north of us that's still burning, and saw all of the blowdown, the huge amount of the forest which burned over the winter time in the ground, burned all the roots of these trees, and these trees all fell over. Right, it's burning. These trees are green because some of them might have still a few roots enough to keep them green, but they're dead and they just don't know it yet. And when the wind comes up, either they're dying because they're not getting enough nutrients, or their roots have actually been burned through. And so these trees are blown over. And when you fly over, there's just hectares, hundreds of hectares where the trees are just laying on top of each other, 4 and 5 layers thick, which will create problems in the future because they're off the ground. And so if you went in there to try to burn it, there's nothing on the floor of the forest to actually keep the fire burning along. So they're trying to figure out how they're going to deal with all of this fuel that's laying out there in the future, whether there's some way to harvest it and use it, or are they just going to have to wait till that understory grows again and dies so that they can actually do a burn on it. So that's an interesting side note to some of the things that are happening out there. Then we flew from there. We went essentially southwest to the Summit Fire, had a look at the devastation there. It's really big, and you just don't see it all from the highway when you're traveling on the highway. But when you go up the highway and you're going up the Tetsa River Valley, it's burned on either side. But what you don't see is that every valley to the west of there is burned black. So there's a lot of valleys that run west from the north-south Tetsa, and every one of them is black from the bottom to the top and over the mountain. That fire just went over mountain range. And at the time there, we didn't fly to the Tishodi, but it was almost to the Tishodi. That's how far that fire has gone to the west. But with the rains, that has, essentially that fire is slowed right down. It's just burning in on itself. So, and then we flew down the Muskwa, where we were able to see the Parker Lake fire. And then we went to the industrial area and flew over the industrial area where I could explain, the forest company sites that we had there. And you could see that they're not being used, and the Takama site is just a mess, right, from the air. And and we're able to show them all of the different sites that we had there going when we were the forestry capital of BC in 2006. And then we flew around Fort Nelson First Nation, and the chief gave them an idea of sort of what they're doing. And then we came back to the airport. So it was a really good flight. Took about 2.5 hours, a lot of time to spend with the minister. Then we had dinner with him. So we brought him in and we had dinner. Council was invited to that. I guess I should have said one of the best things that happened, though it's best from our perspective, but maybe not from his perspective, is his travel into the community. His flights were all messed up. He had to drive in from Fort St. John because he couldn't get into town. I mean, that's all bad, but it just really it opened his eyes with respect to the difficulty people have traveling in this region. So I think he was in Kelowna and he ended up in Vancouver instead of going to Prince George and coming directly here. So he was flying. So all of that, he ended up getting here early in the afternoon, and he wasn't able to meet with Fort Nelson First Nation. His plan was to meet with them in the morning because his plan was to be here by 10 o'clock, and he didn't. So it was good that he had to do all of that. It was bad that it worked out that his travel plans were all messed up, but he got a dose of what it takes to live in this isolated community from a travel perspective. And then we invited Fort Nelson First Nation to supper because they'd missed the morning. We invited them to a dinner meeting with them so that we could have a conversation. So some of the things we talked about was the need for an inventory for us to really understand what the forest looks like out there and what's available to harvest in the future. And we also talked about this cumulative effects issue of all of these different land use plans and restrictions that have put on for various reasons how that is slowly shrinking the forest, the usable forest land base. And we really need to understand what that looks like. We talked about rail and the need for rail and why it's so important for this particular part of the region. The community forest had put a couple of words in my ears. They could be selling wood to LP, but they can't get it there. So, you know, that would be helping right now. We talked about permitting. That was another thing that Percy had put in my ear before I went in. Permitting down at Eskay, which is some of the logging blocks they've got to the south. Those permits have been held up for about a year, my understanding, and try to get those through, because those are blocks to the south of us, which potentially can be moved. The wood can be moved south at a cheaper transportation rate. And so that will help to start the logging industry moving a little bit more. We talked about the wildfire resiliency work that we did this winter. We talked about the relationship being very good with the wildfire service. And we talked a little bit about the roads and the fact that these roads in the north here, we don't want to be putting them to bed necessarily. It's got to be part of the land use planning, because when forestry quits, they put the roads to bed. But there's so few roads in and about the north here that we need them for access to fire and access to the land. It's not similar to the south, where there's an awful lot of Forest Service roads that are still being used. We don't want to lose access to those. So it was a very good meeting. The minister did say that he wanted to work with us. He's interested in Fort Nelson First Nation and the Northern Rockies coming together and working on a plan, which we have done for successive councils here. I think the information he's looking for is all readily available, but what is different, he's prepared to put some resources into it and help provide an economist to work with us to really understand what the economy and the future of forest might look like in this region. And then instead of us trying to present this information in a 15-minute meeting at UBCM, we'll have their economist on the inside presenting our case. And I think that's the difference between what's happened in the past and what's happened now. For me, I think that's probably one of the most important breakthroughs we've had, you know, on the forestry file for a long time. And I think we should be jumping all over that. It will take a partnership between us and the nation, and unfortunately the nation is strapped right now for resources and you know, people to work on that. But hopefully we'll be able to get that up and running and moving sooner rather than later. Okay, I think that brought me all the way to the 7th. Do I remember what I did last week? Oh, I attended the Chamber of Commerce meeting on Thursday, where I was given the opportunity to oversee the swearing in of the board there. So that was good. And I think that's my report. Okay, that then brings us to, is there any business outstanding? I don't see any notice of motions for the next meeting. None. Are there any questions from anybody in the gallery about tonight's meeting? Is there anybody online? No? Okay, adjournment is in order. Who would like to move adjournment? Moved by Councilor Enoch, second by Councilor Roper. All in favor? Opposed? Thank you. That carries. We are adjourned. Thank you very much, everybody.